Episode 2 of the Darby Racing Podcast.
Yes.
Welcome, Mark.
Welcome, Scott. And it's episode number 2.
Good feedback from the first podcast, which is pleasing.
It was massive. I mean, I'm sure you've got text messages, phone calls, emails, Facebook. It came from everywhere. I mean, it was great. I mean, we have to thank Dave Rawson, who's doing all our media now. He mentioned it to us, and we were kind of like, yeah, right, a podcast. But I am a podcast listener, so it did resonate with me, and the feedback from the owners and the general public. I mean, you even had feedback from studs and everything.
Yeah, look, it was great feedback, and I think everybody's got a story to tell, and many people don't know our background, so it was good to sort of get that out there. What a last 4 weeks it's been for Darby Racing. Let's just start there. We mentioned it last time. We started with Goldman, but since Goldman winning the Group 3 Roy Higgins at the end of last month, we've run second in the Sydney Cup with True Marvel at 150 to 1.
Yeah.
We've gone all the way over to WA and won the inaugural Quokka worth $4 million.
Yeah.
And last Saturday, won with Malkovich in the Hawkesbury listed dash.
Yeah.
What a fantastic month. What do you think, Mark?
Well, obviously on the back of the last podcast, Goldman won. And then you flicked me a text after the Quokka win and mentioned another podcast. And I remember thinking, we might have to do these podcasts more regularly because it seems every time we're doing them, we're winning big races. So when he won the Quokka, it was like, yeah, wow. But look, I mean, firstly, for Overpass, I was absolutely, I mean, just the emotions that ran through that horse winning that race were just, I mean, firstly, the emotion of, shit, I thought she got us. I thought Amelia's Jewel got us. I thought she got us. I was heartbroken. There was some fair words said. But Amanda, my wife, she was watching too, and she said, I think you won. And I said, I don't think so. But then when they showed that slow motion and he won by good nose, it was like, oh, wow. And that flood of emotion that comes over you, like he's actually won it. He's freaking won it.
Let's give him some background for those that don't know what we're talking about here. We're talking about a horse called Overpass, trained by Björn Baker.
Yep.
Already a fantastic sprinting horse.
Yep.
A new slot race, just like the Everest, called the Quokka, worth $4 million.
Yep.
All credit goes to the Ram Racing Syndicate. They were fantastic. They chased myself that hard to get Overpass into the race. They'd done all the homework.
Yep.
I don't mind saying Björn Baker, our trainer, wasn't overly keen to go to the race. He felt the TJ Smith and chasing another Everest and the big trip over.
Yeah.
But
they were adamant, weren't they?
But what Björn did and his staff did well was have him absolutely primed for a first up kill. We know Overpass is a lethal first up. He's won the Expressway Stakes Group 2. There's the trophy there.
Yeah.
He's run second to Nature Strip first up and now won the Quokka first up.
Yeah.
But just going back to Ram Racing Syndicate, they bought the slot and they done all the homework. They said this will be the easiest $4 million race
in Australia.
You have to come. They made the deal so good for the owners. You just had to go there. Understandably why Björn was apprehensive. Thinking about the Everest, but I think he's glad we pushed that way and went that way. And it's a race we'll probably never ever forget, like the inaugural. They're saying the turnover on that race was phenomenal.
Is that right?
Absolutely phenomenal. So it's a race that's here to stay. And to win the first ones, congratulations to all the owners.
Yeah.
The scenes over there, if you went over, was wild. You and I didn't go over.
No.
Obviously very expensive to go. We sent Lauren Wadsworth. She had a great time.
Yeah.
And it was just fantastic. But look, it's, as we said before, the ride from January 1 to now has been phenomenal in this last 4 weeks. Stakes winners, and there's more to come, Mark. We're looking at some lovely horses to come out.
There's some really nice 2-year-olds waiting in the barn. They're biding their time. They're coming through. There's some very, very nice horses on the way through that we've got a lot of hopes for. So it's a very exciting time
Some nice
for us.
imports about to step
Nice
out. They've been
imports as
trialling
well.
well. It's a really good time for Derby Racing and its owners and trainers and supporters at the moment. So,
well, we're closing in on nearly $7 million in prize money
for the season.
For the season so far.
It's a record season in prize money.
Yeah.
And still there's a few months to go yet.
Yeah.
Great to see Malkovich win last week, being gelded. Mind you, Overpass and Malkovich gelded coming back from a spell.
Yeah.
Always the bridesmaid, Malkovich. Finally.
I think the thing with Mal too. Yeah, I think the thing with Mal too was obviously he hit the ground running, which he always does, flies those gates, gets out in front, but his weakest part was always that last bit of the race. And he gave that good kick at the top of the straight, and you're kind of thinking, right, is he going to hold out? It's 1,100 first up. You're kind of going, is he going to hold out? And I mean, he ran home in 32.7. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like,
it was actually just a well-rated ride by Josh. Oh. Really, where he's come unstuck in the past, his horses take him on and he's weak late.
Yeah.
They let him out in front there. Josh, all kudos to him. He's ridden the Overpass in the Quokka and then one Malkovich. Yeah. I was there Saturday and he said, just keep bringing them on. I'll ride them for you. Keep bringing them. I'll ride them. So
he has said in the past, Josh Parr, that every time he gets our silks on, he feels like Superman.
Yeah, he has. That's true.
So he loves it.
So been a great ride. Been a great last 4 weeks. But what we want to talk about today is we touched on it last. We touched on basically the history of our friendship and Derby racing. But we wanted to delve a little bit further into the importance of the selection process, how we develop that, what we look for, some stories about some of the horses that we picked and whatnot.
Well, I think something to think about is that, I mean, I've been with horses since I was a kid. So I've grown up with horses. I've showed them sporting, broken them in, worked in stables with Ray Guy. You've done similar. When we look back at when we started looking at horses, we really didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that this morning.
We did touch on that last podcast.
Yeah, and thinking about that and thinking, like, I've been around horses all my life, but you never took notice of shape, athleticism, conformation. You never took notice of it.
Biomechanics.
You never took notice of any of that. Like I said, dressage horses and sporting horses and you never took notice of it. And there wouldn't be anyone out there but the best bloodstock in the world when they first started.
Yeah.
They'd be in the same boat.
It's a minefield.
It is a minefield, and trying to navigate that. And we came in with experience, prior experience with horses. Nevertheless, to come in, and I think back now, like we were walking around those sale yards, really, we had no idea what we were doing.
Well, let's unwrap some of that, and I mean to the novice, to the owner, that a horse looks like it's got 4 legs, a tail, and it's got a colour, certain colour to it. And you know what? Many owners will just buy off the back of a colour.
Absolutely right.
Whether it's small, big, they will notice those certain things, but there's so much that goes in. I'd like to say, firstly, umbrella everything, besides things you won't take in conformation and whatnot, it comes down to a feel. Once you have an understanding of an athlete, when a horse walks out, they either hit you or they don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And once a horse hits you between the eyes, like, wow, really, something really about this horse I like.
Yeah. You're
then trying to find what faults it's got.
Yeah.
Why it won't run. Or why it will run.
Yeah.
Let's unpack some of that, Mark, and things we had to learn over the years. Let's start with the shape of a horse. I, for one, am very big in shape, and early on, and you talk about that learning process, I likened it to the watching the Olympics or even watching rugby league, depending on what sport you're looking at. The shape of an athlete.
Yeah.
A lot of times can determine, not always, because we can't see their heart size and they can't see, their determination and whatnot. But the shape of an athlete can determine what sort of distance they're going to run, what sort of speed they're going to have. I mean, very rarely, you talked about it earlier, we were talking about this, and very rarely do you see a fast bodybuilder.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. They look impressive.
Yeah.
But they're unathletic and they can't run. And that's something that we fell into early days. We fell into the bulldogs, the big, strong, imposing bodybuilder that looks short-legged, not a lot of length, short-coupled, looked outstanding, but they were all flash and no bash. Like they looked great, but they lacked that athleticism and lacked that. But we fell into that. And it's easy to fall into because you fall into the bodybuilder. They look great. They got big muscles and he looks outstanding. Look at that Arnold Schwarzenegger he is.
Well,
but they can't run.
We do know that there's a luck factor in no matter what type you buy, pedigree, there is always going to be a luck factor.
Absolutely.
But if we stick to the parameters of builds and whatnot and not so much the luck factor.
Yeah.
I remember early on I'd start looking at the Olympics and like the 100-meter sprinters are built a certain way. They're still athletic, but they've got much more muscle than the marathon runner.
Yeah.
And between the 100-meter distance right out to the marathon, you saw a different shaped athlete.
Different shaped body.
When we're talking about rugby league and you're looking at the athletes today, which most of them are, but maybe more back, 10 years ago, you could see the different shapes and builds. And it's the same with a horse.
Absolutely.
Short-legged, long-legged, heavy.
Yeah.
So, shape's one of the first things I think for me, I'm not sure about you, that when a horse walks out, the first thing that hits me is the shape of a horse.
Yeah.
The curves, the hindquarter.
Yeah.
They just look predominantly, most of the horses are bred for speed for mile here in Australia.
Yeah.
So you're instantly thinking of a fast horse when they come out.
Yeah.
Horse will come out and either grab you, look straight away and see who they're by. They're by a speed sire.
Yeah.
They should look like that.
Yeah.
What's some of the things you look for straight away when that horse first walks out, before we look at faults and whatnot?
The shape's the big one for me as well. They've got to have a good shape. If they don't have that good shape, I generally lose interest. And once you've lost interest in a horse, you've lost interest. And they come out. If they don't have that, just a real sort of symmetry to them, good length, great shoulder, good hindquarter, everything put on where it should be, everything where it's supposed to be. If they don't have that straight away, you just lose interest. And you're right. It's a gut feel then on a horse.
Yep.
They'll come out, and I try to say to prospective owners when they're buying and when they're buying in, there's no exact science to any of it.
No.
It's an absolute gut feel, but something about that horse has to grab you.
Absolutely.
And we go to the sales and we're looking at hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of horses. And as you go to a vendor and you say, we see a full draft, which means they'll bring everything out, and you just stand in your position and you watch them. And the first one comes out and instantly you don't like it and you just go, no. To see, walk please. Thank you. And off it goes. Next one comes out. No. See, walk please. Thank you. The next one comes out. It's got nice shape. It's got a lovely head. It's got athleticism. You start to go, geez, I like this. What's this? And you look more at, well, what's this? Okay. It's got me. And I try and say to the owners, that's exactly the same for you. You've got email after email after email coming into your inbox. You'll see the horse. I don't like it. You'll see the horse. I don't like it. You'll see one. You go, you like that? What's that? And you look further into it, and that's exactly where we are at the sales. It's the same position.
It's probably a good time before we go into the faults and whatnot to talk about that. We're also a little bit different as syndicators, that we're a little bit hamstrung.
Absolutely.
In that we're hamstrung by a budget.
Yeah.
By what's popular.
Yeah.
We can't, spend syndicators are bound by a ceiling of 500,000 and 50 owners in each horse. So we've also got to know what mums and dads and prospective clients are going to know and want to buy into. So we're hamstrung from that. We can't just go too left field on pedigrees.
Yeah.
So we've got to find the athlete. We've got to find the horse that hits us between the eyes.
Presents well.
Let's now talk about some of those things we don't like in a horse that knocks back. Let's start at the rear end, particularly hocks. We talk about that a lot in our team.
Yeah.
Horse will come out and their hocks will be set away.
Yeah.
Or they'll be cowed hock. The hocks, when looking from behind, they'll angle in.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's going to affect the drive mark.
Yeah, well, that's right. Like hocks away is basically as your hindquarter's coming down, you're wanting to see the hindquarter come down, and if you can run a line straight down the hindquarter, your hocks should be sitting just there. When they're sitting behind that line, that's hocks away. Now, the reason you don't like that is when they're coming forward and when they're wanting to drive, their hocks are set away. So if you understand, they're pushing from further away. They're not going to get that drive. They're not going to get that power and drive from behind the saddle, and that's one of the things we can't really take.
And let's say once again, doesn't mean you can't win. There's plenty of horses that win with hocks away, cow hocks.
Absolutely.
What we're saying is you would prefer them to have the hocks that way.
Well,
because of the biomechanics of driving, not from out here, but underneath the horse.
And that's the idea of when they first come out, seeing that picture of them, is everything where it's supposed to be. Because they'll come out and their hocks away and their long pasterns and they're back at the knee and the narrow depth, and it's just not right. It's like, no, well, that's not right. So when they come out and immediately you have that quick glance and everything seems to be where it should be, you go, okay, like this, and then you look more into it, then you start to fine tune and go, oh, right, okay.
We're going to gloss over pretty quickly some of these things, but obviously one of the biggest things that most people look at is how the horse walks. I mean, obviously at a sale, you don't gallop them around. You don't even trot them around.
No.
They walk.
Yeah.
And what we're looking for is an athletic walk.
Yeah.
Motion.
Yeah.
We're looking for fluency.
Yeah.
Why is it so important, Mark, to see a good walk? Because not every stallion can throw that into the horse. And then lately, who was it, Hubie, that said an interesting fact that some farms haven't taught the horse to walk properly.
Yeah, well, that's right.
So why is it so important? Why do you think it's so important?
Well, I think it's important to teach the horse, well, not even teach the horse. If a horse can walk well naturally, the assumption is that they're going to progress into their gaits with that same action. So if they've got a lovely action and a lovely stride in the walk, as they start to trot, it'll be the same. And as they canter, it'll be the same. It's not very often that you'll see a little walker like this that'll float into this big, beautiful action. You go, wow.
And does that mean they can't win races? No.
No.
It's just what you would prefer to see.
Yeah.
What a good action horse, an economical action.
Yeah.
This is not taking consideration that we can't determine at a sale how determined a horse is going to be in that last 200.
No, that's right.
What fights in a horse.
I think for me, I've always said it and always will, the beauty of the pure beauty of our game is none of us know. Honestly, none of us know. We're all there. We're just selecting the horses we like on whatever criteria that we've got. None of us know which horses are going to be successful. And I think it's brilliant, because if purchase price, if type, pedigree and purchase price were everything, I mean, the big guns would win everything.
Yeah.
They'd win everything. We wouldn't be winning that Golden Slipper trophy with a $20,000 filly.
No.
You wouldn't be winning it. So it levels the playing field. I think it's brilliant, because none of us at the end of the day can determine what heart determination that horse has got. And Chris Waller, we've mentioned it 100 times. Chris Waller's right. You don't know what you've got until the last furlong on race day. Correct.
And in many thoughts, do you put more emphasis on a pedigree, more emphasis on a type?
Yeah.
I know from our point of view, we probably put more emphasis on a type.
Yeah, definitely.
We prefer an athlete and sacrifice a bit of pedigree if we've got budget constraints.
Yeah.
I'd rather be involved with an athlete when you turn up and see it trained and whatnot.
Yeah.
You're looking at that aesthetic to the eye. It's got a great action.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that, again, goes back to our early days. Like early days, again, when you're not 100% sure what you're looking at, pedigree's a big one.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to sell. Most of the time, owners aren't coming out and seeing the horse in the flesh. So you can get a horse that, it looks okay.
Yeah.
But you've got a ripping pedigree to sell.
And we move right away from that.
And we've moved, when we started to get our success was when we moved more towards the type and not worry and emphasize so much on the pedigree pages.
Let's have a look at it in, say, the NRL today. Does someone make first grade because they're the son of the greatest player?
Yeah, that's right.
Or
Joey Johns.
on their feats, what they've done in reserve grade, their athleticism, their ability. So, look, pedigree is important, particularly for horses. But it is also plays a part in syndication because, we can't go to left field.
Yeah.
Talking about some of the horses now, talking about types and what we're looking for. Let's look at a horse like Overpass, 75,000 at the Easter 2 sale, was a really athletic, lovely style of horse. What was your memories of purchasing him?
He was a colt that I just fell in love with. I just fell in love with him. I know Vancouver
off the boil
he's still not even a red hot stallion. So Vancouver, it's one of the things we do try and look for at the sales. You can get that little off stallion. We've had that success with She Will Reign time,
which the industry is harsh. Let me tell you.
That's right.
Vancouver is a very good stallion.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's trendy at the time can be a bit off. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see him, and for me, he was kind of a standout. It was like, he's a standout, this horse. He's outstanding. But then when you get him for 75, you start to go, did he miss something here?
Yeah.
I think he's a really nice horse. But again, it's that gut feel. It's the gut feel, the feeling in your bones, and you go, I'm telling you, that's a nice horse.
I hope Mark doesn't mind me telling this story, but it is a good story about this. The mare is named Walkway, and she'd had a few foals by then.
Yeah.
And we noticed Mark trained 2 of them.
Yeah.
And one currently in his stable. Mark Newnham we're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark. We bought the horse and went,
Mark's the man.
Mark's the man. Vancouver. Yeah. Probably engaged when Vancouver.
Yeah.
And he said, nah, don't like it. Have had a couple. They go no good.
Mare's no good.
Mare. And we went, oh, wow, we love the horse.
Oh, right.
And it just happened. We turned, and Björn actually liked the horse as well. He actually really liked the horse. He's sent it to Björn. So
love Vancouver's boss.
Sliding door moments. Mark rejects, and rightly so. Like, he'd had a couple of the family. He just said, look, nothing against the actual horse physically, but what I've experienced, the mare's not producing. And we're like, we just love the athlete. And there you go.
Actually, that is something to remember, guys, because a lot of people will do that with pedigree pages. They'll look and they'll say, oh, the mare's not really doing it. But if it's an outstanding type of horse and the mother hasn't 100% done it, but we've purchased it, there's a reason that we've done it. It's like Overpass. Were the other 2 foals as good a type as Overpass?
Correct.
No. And that mare has since foaled a couple of foals down and then nowhere near the type that Overpass was.
Yeah.
They were never. And I mean, look, from a sales point of view, it would make absolute no-brainer for us to go and buy the half-brother to Overpass. But he was, all due respect, he was awful. Like, he wasn't nice. He was a monstrous size of horse. He was unathletic. It was just like, I remember when Lauren saw him, Lauren Wadsworth, she was heartbroken.
Yeah.
It was like
a giant.
Yeah. And it was, you can't do it.
Another good story about Overpass early on. I remember, obviously, Lauren Wadsworth's the racing manager these days, and Björn obviously wasn't seeing a lot in track work early days.
Yeah.
And he was ready to trial, but Björn was reluctant to trial him.
Yeah.
That's what trainers base it on, how they run their time.
Track work.
And he wanted to tip him out, and it was Lauren who said, well, look, why don't you just give him a trial for experience?
Trials.
So he goes around the trials, and trials all right. And you think, oh, that's good. No deal. But he wants to tip him out again. He thinks, think he's done enough, haven't seen much.
Ready.
Lauren says, listen, if he comes through all right, the trial wasn't that bad. Why don't you find an easy race for him? So that's what he does. He said, right, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Bjorn's pretty good like that. He's easygoing sometimes. And next minute, we're out at Orange winning our first race.
Yeah.
I reckon it was I think we went second start Hawkesbury.
Yeah.
And ran second. The Bjorn started going,
I think he goes all right.
Next minute, we're in a Saturday race winning that. Next minute, we're up in the carnival.
Yeah.
Running in a Group
Queensland.
2 race.
Yeah.
And he could have been out
in the paddock. Yeah.
But Overpass, right. Really good type. Another horse I want to touch on in the earlier days, a horse like Look to the Stars.
Yeah.
First crop of I'm Invincible. Yeah. Who would have thought we're at the Scone sales?
Good old Scone
Scone
sales.
has been a brilliant sale for us.
Yeah, we've had a phenomenal record there.
A much lesser sale.
Yeah.
But you can find some real diamonds, and we're there first season. And this is the beauty of first season size, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm Invincible is...
Well, he was no superstar on the track, I'm Invincible.
No, he's only a Group 2 winner.
That's right. Who was to know that
he's pretty good.
Well, yeah. But when you're talking stallions that are Group 1 this and Group 1 that, and you've got I'm Invincible he's nowhere near that. Who was to know that he was going to turn into this elite stallion?
Well, Yarraman Park must have known something.
They knew something.
All credit to them.
Absolutely.
Took him on.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him those early days we did that stud tour, and he's just a magnificent athlete.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
But to think to what he's come today. But first season, Look to the Stars, 26,000.
Yeah.
So an I Am Invincible filly out of a stakes-winning Argentinian mare.
Yep.
$26,000. Thanks very much. What would she be worth today on the type of horse she was?
Yep.
And the pedigree. What does she command in today's ring? 500?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
She wasn't a belting type.
No.
She was.
But I tell you what, she was another gut feel.
Yep.
She was a gut feel. She wasn't an overly big filly. She was athletic. But the minute I saw her, I just thought she will run.
Yeah.
She will run like the clappers. There's just a feel you get, and it was just like, good, wow, that will run. It's a gut feel sometimes, and sometimes you can be with people and you go, good Lord, that'll run. And they look at you like, who, her? And you kind of go, yep. And they're like, really? And you kind of, it's just a feel you get. I've heard you do it. You just kind of go,
and then you're trying to, we're genuinely on the same page because of like what we said, we come through the system together.
Yeah.
But every now and then one of us will go, geez, I like this. This will run. Yeah. And the other person's going,
who this? Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't have the legs, the hocks. Don't worry about the hocks. This thing's going to run like the clappers.
Yeah. It'll run. I'm telling you. Yeah.
Oh, well, put it on your list.
And that's the one you go, put it on the list.
Put it on the list. We'll look at it a second time.
Yeah. Because the second time, everybody, the seconds list, the second looks, that's when you start to find out when the cream starts to rise. Because the first time you're looking at hundreds and hundreds of horses, you can find a horse that you think, because you're looking at rubbish. All due respect to the vendors, what we think, I don't like it. Then you find one that you go, you like that, but you've been looking at average horses. So you see one that you think's a nice horse. When you get to your second looks and you're looking at a better quality of horse, they quickly start to sort themselves out, don't they? And you start to go, you even can get to the point of going, why is this on the list?
Yeah.
What did you, I don't know. But it's it's the quality of animal that you're looking at. So it can really change those second looks once they come through.
Well, mate, let's just tie up and wrap up this one. We didn't go into great depth of all the ins and outs and what things we're happy with and don't like about conformation. But if we could umbrella it, what would you say from where we've come from to where we are today on picking a horse? What would you say? How would you describe it? I
think
what a horse we commonly look for.
I think how I would describe is a lot of hard work.
Yeah,
has gone into where we've come to today. A lot of hard work. A lot of long phone calls, dissecting what's successful, what's not.
Yeah.
How can we get better at this? What can we do here?
That's important.
Like we're just, especially you, we're just forever on the phone assessing. Why was that successful? Why was it not?
Assessing.
Because you're very analytical. I try to say to you, this is not an analytical game because they're animals you're dealing with, but you get very, there's got to be reasons for it. So we look further and further and further into how can we get better at this.
Side coming out.
Yeah, that's right.
I know it's a lot of it's Phil, but you've got to bring the analytical side in. But it's all driven, I think you'd sum it up both. We're just so competitive to get to the next level.
Well,
even now with the success we're getting, we want the next level.
Absolutely. When you do you win the Quokka and you go, that's outstanding. How good is that for Darby racing, for the horse, for the owners, for everybody? But the shine wears off quick, and you go, right, where's the next one coming from? What's the next one? Where's the next yearling? That's like I remember when we went to the recent HTBA sale, we were pumped to get there because you can't wait to go there and find the next one. Yeah. Right, what's the next one? She's, oh, yeah. And again, when you leave there with the 6 horses and you're pumped.
Yeah.
From the cheapest one to the dearest one, you love them. You go, this is great. Yeah. Because we ended up with nearly 40 on our list and we ended up coming home with 6.
Well, basically, we're talent scouts trying to add to our team and get the best results for our owners.
Yep.
And you'd probably sum up from where we were in the early days to now, when a horse comes out, the feel of an athlete, the shape of a horse, the feel that it gives you.
I think where we've honed our craft is when that horse comes out, we're pretty quick to go, I like it, or I don't like it. I remember years and years and years ago, it would come out and you'd be stuck there going.
Yeah, well, there still is the odd horse that leaves you a little bit in between.
You get a bit, I don't know. We'll put that on the list and we'll all decide. But 99% of the time, when they come out, you just know.
And
and that's experience.
Probably one thing didn't say is if you see us at the sales, it's quite a big team, and people like Steve McIver and Amy and particularly Lauren Wadsworth all like to get their input in. I probably make the final say, in speaking with yourself, and obviously the vets have a fair bit to say. Every horse is vetted, but there's hopefully a bit of an overview of where we've come from in picking a horse. And
long way, a lot of hard work, still a lot to go. Massive success.
Never stop learning
because of it, and more to come.
Well, Mark, I look forward to the next podcast and give people a little bit of preview.
Yes.
We're going to delve back into the band days by popular demand. People think that's
glory days
pretty funny. Didn't know how that'll go down, but we'll delve more into the old band days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until next time.
Yeah.